Welcome back to Season 3 of iRacing UK Formula 3 League, live and exclusive on the iRacing UK and Total Sim Sport Twitch and YouTube channels respectively. We at Total Sim Sport are proud to present you this evening's racing, which is brought to you via iRacing, the world's premier motorsport simulator, and tonight you join us at Laguna Seca. And judging from the feedback from some of our drivers, it's been a week where consistency and staying out of trouble are at the front of everyone's minds. Now, I'm going to stop right there and we'll talk about the track and what to expect in more detail in a few moments. But first, let's introduce the team this evening. As ever, you're stuck with me, Nick Allen, here on this Tuesday night, and cameraman Chris is calling the shots from behind the scenes, just as he always is. And a familiar voice joins us this evening in the form of Mr. Joshua Wilson, who, if you've been watching carefully, has had quite the mixture of results in the last few rounds. So Josh, welcome back, my friend. Great to have you with us here this evening at Laguna Seca. A few good results with a P5, obviously at the volatile Twisty Suzuka, and then Hockenheim was a P4 for you, so not quite the podium. We won't talk about motorsport, but how's it been for you?
Hello, Nick. Good to be back after a good run at my two favourite tracks and a slightly unfortunate receival of some rear ramming at motorsport. I was hoping to follow in the previous rounds and get a top 5 finish, but, you know, that's racing sometimes. It's a new week now, and I'm looking forward to seeing the F3 visit this popular classic sandy track at Laguna Seca.
Absolutely. So Laguna, famously known for corners such as the Corkscrew, where our drivers this evening are going to be required to take a bold leap of faith over the crest of that hill, desperately hoping that the car is positioned perfectly for that downhill right-hander run that heads into the final sector of the track. So Corkscrew, is it a valid overtake spot or just playing silly? Well, if you're a fan of IndyCar, I'd strongly suggest you have a little look at Romain Grosjean's charge through the field at this year's race, and I can tell you he certainly puts on a wonderful display of just how to get around your fellow competitors here at Laguna, especially in the Corkscrew, where he put in a few fantastic maneuvers right there. Now, of course, we're not here to talk about IndyCar, we're here to talk about Formula 3, and of course we're going to give you an update on what's been going on in the F3 League very shortly. But first of all, if you want to get the real lowdown on all of the action, what's going on over here at iRacing UK, you can head over to their social links. So www.facebook.com/iRacing UK, and you can also get them at twitter.com/IRUK_team. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on at Total Sim Sport, we are at Total Sim Sport or www.totalsimsport.tv. But better still, we've got another link for you here, and that is down in the video description down below, and that, Sim Racing fans, is a link to the Inside iRacing podcast. Now, this is the only podcast that you need for all your iRacing UK news, and in the episode that's just been released, the third episode, you'll get to hear from Team Fordzilla's Jack Ashton. He's a coach over at Driver 61, but also competes in the UK Hot Hatch Championship. So be sure to tune in and listen along as he talks with hosts Mark Jennings and Calvin Dent. Now, Calvin and Mark, they're not only talking to Jack Ashton, they also catch up with Sean Cranley-Swash from the team here at Total Sim Sport. He gives a bit of an update, though, on the GT3 Season 4 League, what's been happening in the current driver standings, and we'll be heading over to the Nürburgring for the next round there. Now, while we talk about GT3s, we absolutely have to mention, and we're very pleased to announce, that the registration for the 5th season of the GT3 League is now open. So if you like the look of the action that you've seen on your screen so far, why not head over to www.totalsimsport.tv/GT3 for your chance to sign up and appear in one of these broadcasts. There's a link down below in the video description. If you're already a member of the iRacing UK Discord community, you can head over to the GT3 Season 5 channel to register your interest. Now, speaking of the lowdown and what's been interesting, here we go. Here are the standings. So at the moment, we've got Gavin Petty at the top of the table, but he's not much separating him and Scott Tuffy. Only 1 point between those two competitors at the moment. moment, cars 33 and 36. I'm sure we'll be able to see those guys going wheel to wheel this evening. Lee Aberdeen's had a run of interesting races, losing it on the last time out at Mosport as he had some contact with James Cockram, who isn't with us this evening on the track, but still maintains a 5th position in the league at the moment with 335 points. We can't forget Reece Saunders in the middle of those two, though. 4th position, a great win for Reece in the last race, and an all-around solid performance. Great racing so far from a lot of the guys that we see there in the top 5. Now, behind them, we've got Sam Hermer, Alistair Hay, Jerome Lamy, Mitchell Webb, and Stuart Milne for the rest of the top 10. Jerome Lamy, another one of the race winners, not had the best fortunes in every round, but certainly showed what he's made of when we had our little outing at Hockenheim, where obviously, Josh, you had your P4 result. Now, behind those guys, we've then got Duncan Watts, Patrick Rowlands in 12th, Craig Walters in 13th, Ryan Micallef in 14th, Sean Barnett, Martin Devine, yourself, Josh, and then Dan Mould in 18th. Will Redford and Jack Ralph follow them for 19th and 20th. So incredibly tight across the field at the moment. As we said, the top 2 drivers only separated by 1 point. It's going to be a hell of a race here at Laguna Seca with, the track being a real trick for the drivers. A little bit of rubber off the track onto the sand, you're going to get turned around, and the early laps under cold conditions and cold rubber are really going to catch a lot of people out. Now, Josh, there's obviously been a few people out on the track this week in the officials competing. I've heard that Reece has had a pretty strong week in terms of iRating gain. Is he going to be a contender for the win this evening?
Reece has definitely got a chance to get a win here, and very high chance of on a podium finish. He started the week at about 3,300 iRating, I believe, and he finished over 4K. That's an absolutely epic week for someone who's already so high up there in iRating. He's just had great clean races, not like that. And he's kept his nose clean and just, farmed away the iRating, and he's had an absolute storm of a week. So I expect a good result from here tonight.
Now, we've just observed a bit of contact there in turn 6 in the qualifying session. Now, this is an open qualifying session, which means our drivers are able to go head-to-head in the session, trying to obviously take advantage of the slipstream maybe where they can, but also you could get in the way of a competitor on a flying lap, and that may accidentally play to your advantage. For you, Josh, has the open qualifying format been working for you? Have you found it to be disadvantageous at any point?
Yeah, because you're not going to get your best times until the end of your stint, where you got the least amount of fuel in the car. And if you see on your relative that you're getting closer and closer to someone, and that person's probably not on the same pace as you, you start getting really nervous because you don't want to catch them when you're going to be on your absolute best flying lap. It's just, if you lose time during it, it's going to be so hard to catch it back for the rest of the lap. So there's things you can do to minimize that. Is that you should see early on your relative how far away you are from someone, and you can figure out, right, I know I'm this much faster than that person. I need to back off a lot more, or I need to push early, get past them. And that can help a lot with your qualifying.
So the qualifying session very much coming towards a close now, so only a couple of minutes left on the board. The drivers will be able to complete a lap if they start one before the timer ticks down to 0. Jerome Lamy currently setting the pace. We're going to go on board though with Stuart Milne for a lap. Now, Josh, I've spent a lot of time here this week in the Radicals, just as these guys have been driving the Formula 3. I can tell you now, this run down to turn 1 in the cold, really easy place to lock up the tires, and of course that does send you very far out deep across the tarmac. Quite difficult to recover the cars if they hit the gravel here. As we now just carry on with Stuart Milne, goes through turn 3 and 4, incredibly precise exits on these corners. It looks like he barely had to lift at all there through turn 4, and then the run up to 5, delicate on the brakes. Again, another place that's quite easy to lock up and go a little bit too deep. Turn 6 is for the brave. The later on the anchors, the better, if you have to use them at all. A lift, I believe, just in these Formula 3 cars. And then that long run up the hill to the Corkscrew. Again, This is where it can get incredibly delicate on the early laps. Very good idea to go one by one into here rather than side by side. Very easy place to spin, as we've seen a couple of times in the practice session as we've been building up to the race this evening. The final couple of bends here are fairly uneventful. Be sure to keep an eye out though for turn 11 dives. Not quite like that. That was, I think, someone being let through there. Car number 6 ahead, but I've certainly seen dives on the inside, dive bombs into turn 11. We've also seen the opportunity for people to really spin it round there. Again, under those cold conditions in the early portion of the race, one of the spots I expect will see cars facing the wrong way. Jerome Lamy still at the top of the tables, a 113.9, the only person to breach the 113 mark now. He stands at the top of the table ahead of Sam Hermer and Scott Tuffy. A very, very strong lineup. And another familiar name there who we haven't seen very much of this season, Matt Lubscher, currently riding down in the 30th somewhere in the league table at the moment. He's in 5th in the timings. Be sure to keep an eye out for Matt because we know he's crafty. Even if he ends up qualifying a little bit further back than we're used to seeing him, he's still able to make his way up the order with relative ease because he's just that kind of skilled driver as we see him dancing up the hill there towards the Corkscrew. Car number 21, keep your eyes peeled. Now, Reece Saunders, obviously we saw as the winner of the last race. Currently, Reece not showing the same kind of pace. In fact, I can't actually see Reece at all on the timing tower, I don't think, at the moment. So we'll come back to that. No, it doesn't look like Reece is here. So Reece they're going to be here to defend that glory from last week. Gavin Petty, however, who was the second place runner, also, I believe, missing from the order as well. So some of the big names not here tonight. James Cockram, also another driver that we're not going to see. He's at work. So I think Paddy Bennett we've got in there this evening in 17th. He's a new face to the league. Obviously, we've seen him in previous seasons of the Formula 3, but tonight making an appearance and currently sitting in 17th in the order. The session coming to an end. Drivers can finish their laps if they're on a flyer, but it looks to me like everybody's mostly set a time now and ready to head into the pits before we grid up. So the format this evening, we've had obviously an open qualifier for 20 minutes, an hour of practice preceded that, and now you've got a race that will last approximately half an hour, probably just shy of that, given the pace that we've seen on these cars this evening. 23 laps will certainly fly by. There's no entry requirements here this evening for the race, so a real variety of talent you'll see across the board, and that'll be reflected in the qualifying times. And a fast repair is available, so any kind of commotion that does occur in those early laps, we'll be able to see our drivers go in repair and go back out for another stab at getting themselves up the order. Josh, I've got my money possibly on someone like maybe Ryan Mikulev tonight if he's here. Again, that's another name I haven't actually seen. Another one that's not here this evening. Okay, my money's not on Ryan Mikulev because that's it's definitely a way to lose a bet. Anybody out there that you're looking out for this evening who you think is going to top the tables?
I think my money is on Hermer. I actually thought he was going to put it on pole here, but it seems that Lamy's pipped into it. But my money is on Hermer, and my dark horse is Paul Busby tonight. He loves him some Laguna Seca. He might not be gifted there free that often, but he's my dark horse.
Grid is on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got Jerome Lamy followed by Sam Hermer on the front row, then Scott Tuffy and Alistair Hay on the second row. Matt Lubscher in 5th, followed by Alex Hopkins, and then Lee Aberdeen and Ryan Annals bring up 7th and 8th. Dare Flock, Chris Robinson, Stuart Milne, and then Paul Busby, your man, your dark horse there in 12th, followed by Mitchell Webb, Patrick Rowlands, Martin Devine, James Folkes, Patrick Bennett, James Parfitt, Roxy Gibson, Duncan Watts, Marcus Hudson, Graham Nicol, David Hatton, Colin Nicol, and then we've got Nathan Willoughby and Mark Murphy rounding out the grid. So a 26 car lineup for you this evening. That's enough here on Laguna Seca. We're sure to see a few people heading off and then going into the pits. Back markers could be an issue here as we now get ready for the start of this race. Our drivers are ready to get going, and we've got, I believe, pretty much everyone on the grid. Just Mitchell Webb, David Hatton and Mark Murphy. Possibly 40 seconds to go, actually, if they don't grid. Paul Busby could well be the man to watch here off the start. As we said, 12th position. It's not uncommon to see Paul Busby make his way up the order in the early laps. We've seen it happen in previous Formula 3 rounds. We'll keep a close eye on car 420. Scott Tuffy, another one who was involved in early action in the last laps, bit of contact, but here come the lights now as we get ready for the start of the next round of Formula 3. Lights are out here at Laguna Seca, and Jerome Lamy's got a good getaway, so Sam Hermer, and it looks like everybody's away cleanly off the grid. Jerome Lamy's going to have to defend the inside line as they take the run down to turn 2, the Andretti Hairpin here, and it's nice and tidy for Jerome Lamy by the looks of it, and also for Hermer. But look at Alistair Hay trying to go around the outside of Scott Tuffy. He's not going to be able to get it done there. Too brave on this occasion, but that opens up the door for Matt Lubscher to have a look, but he's not going to try it into turn 3 at this point. Jerome Lamy maintains that first position. Oh, we've got a car off there. That's Paul Busby. The dark horse is buried in the wall. That's him out of this race. Jerome Lamy maintains that lead. Alistair Hay having a little look around Scott Tuffy, but it's not going to happen into turn 5. And now Lee Aberdeen drops down the order slightly, just ahead of Alex Hopkins. That's Lee in 6th position at the minute as we now head into turn 6. All the cars making it through by the looks of it at the minute. There goes Alistair Hay. Oh, lots of dust being kicked up there on the entry into the Corkscrew. Nose to tail they go. Very close racing here into the Corkscrew, but they're going in single file like sensible folk. And I have seen, I think, Chris Robinson dropping down the order as well. So we've possibly got another incident further back we'll try and get to in a moment. Jerome Lamy at the end of this first lap as they enter turn 11 now maintains that lead. Car number 16 ahead. Let's go to a little replay now of Paul Busby going off track. Oh, snap oversteer.
Snaps oversteer, yeah. Oh.
Unfortunately, not able to recover it then, just bonking the wall there twice after trying to get the car back under control. That's a shame for Paul. That fast repair will be available to him, though, so I can't see any massive damage there. He's probably picked up a little bit, I expect, but the fast repair is available to him. Here's what happened to Paddy Bennett here on the replay, round the outside of turn 11, and it's just a little bit too brave, and that, unfortunately, has created a roadblock for some of the other guys. Oh, and we've got contacts and front wings lost there, all because round the outside was just a little bit too hot for Patrick tonight. Let's have a look at Martin Devine here. We've got a fight on the run up towards turn 6, and that's James Parfitt also going against him there. So, up the inside, Martin Devine, car number 55, but James Parfitt's going to try it back now on the inside line, going into the Corkscrew. Are they going to be sensible here as they go into lap 2? James gets it done, but he spun it too hot for James Parfitt. In the gravel, sideways he goes off the track. Martin Devine comes out on top of that one with a cool head and a intact clean car. That's Paul Busby and James Parfitt we've lost so far. Alex Hopkins tries to go around the outside here on turn 11. Not going to happen here though. We've got a line of cars on the run up to the Andretti Hairpin. Ryan Annals is now dropping down the order a little bit. I've just seen him drop down to 10th. What's happening here with Alex Hopkins? On the inside goes car number 6 of Dare Flock. That was very brave from Dare Flock there, and Alex Hopkins, nothing you can do about it, just has to leave the gap with that speeding car number 6 flying in like a missile. Brilliant work there to see both those guys getting out of that on the other side. Now, James Folks, first race, up 7 places already in P9. Great stuff from James. Obviously, we've lost a couple of people up the order, and it looks like Scott Tuffy is dropping down the order, now in 6th position. I wonder what's happened. That's him on the left there on the exit of turn 5 as now head into turn 6. He's going to be really in the way. Oh, he's come off the circuit there, so I think that could be him done. Here we go, a little replay of what happened to Scott Tuffy. So, oh yeah, just loses it on the outside there, and then unfortunately rolls into the gravel. Now,
I think we've got a big crash there. We've got Ryan, Alex.
We've got some more, have we? Oh yeah, Ryan's dropped down. Colin, Nickel, I think. Marcus Hudson might be involved in that. Just back to James Folks, he's up to P7. Oh, here we go. So we're going up to the Corkscrew here. Car number 6 ahead, who we saw obviously get ahead. Alex Hopkins goes for a big dive, can't quite make it stick. Gets spun around, and it's a bit similar to how James Hopkins was, and it's a roadblock. Nobody could really go anywhere there, and it is very much a blind leap of faith over the crest of that hill at the Corkscrew. You have to be incredibly delicate, and unfortunately there, that car, an utter roadblock for the rest of the guys that wanted to get down the hill. I mean, I don't know if you've seen anything similar in any of the racing that you've been doing, Josh, but that was quite the catastrophe for some of these guys.
Yeah, it's been a familiar story in the officials all week. You know, someone spinning it with cold tires early on, or a little bit too much, getting on the throttle a bit too early on the Corkscrew, spinning it and just become an absolute roadblock. And like you say, it's so blind, you can't see it. You get a flag warning from the game, but sometimes it's just too late and there's nothing you can do about it. You got so minimum space and opportunity to move and dodge blocks there. It's a dice roll basically, and it can be bad if people have just been practicing hot lapping all week. Then the corkscrew is kind of fine. If you've not been doing the officials and doing the racing and learning how to handle that corkscrew early on with cold tires, you're going to be at a bit of a disadvantage coming into a race like this. Everyone knows the corkscrew it's a dangerous place, and it's caught a lot of people out tonight.
Now, we've absolutely seen that a lot of action throughout the field so far, but Jerome Lamy is really pushing hard at the moment. We can see that he's heading off track a little bit, kicking up some dust as he tries to grow that gap, currently at 1.5 seconds to Sam Herman behind. But I think what we need to go and have a little look at here is Graham Nicol, because we've got a fight on our hands here between Graham Nicol and Colin Nicol. So both the Nichols. Sorry, that's why it was so confusing there on the timings board. Less than 2/10 separate these guys now as they enter the middle sector of the circuit. Heading up to turn 4 now. Let's see which one of these guys is going to come out on top. Car 18 behind and 162 ahead as they go on the run now. Up to turn 5. It looks like Colin's just dropped back a little bit there now. It's 4/10, almost half a second. So Graham obviously being able to grow that gap as we now go over to Roxy Gibson. They're under pressure here on the run up to the corkscrew, and behind, I think behind Roxy, that's James Parfitt. So obviously James, who we saw have that incident earlier on into the corkscrew, now trying to make his way back up the order, and up the inside goes James Parfitt. Lovely little move there. Roxy not putting up too much of a fight, and here comes Marcus Hudson as well up the inside of turn 11. We thought we'd see a couple of moves there, but very safe and sensible there from Roxy. That's kind of the kind of behaviour that I think we want to see at this point after a little bit of carnage on lap 1. We don't want to have too many more infirm drivers, should we say, throughout this race at Laguna Seca, which we are already 6 laps through. So absolutely churning our way through, over a quarter of the way, and plenty more action to be had as we now go over to Lee Aberdeen. So Lee chasing hard behind Matt Lubscher, who is also following closely behind Alistair Hay. So the gap between Hay and Lubscher has been shrinking ever so slightly over the last few laps, and now it's got to the point where Lubscher's really got a sniff with 2/10 between him and Alistair Hay ahead. But Lee Aberdeen will also be looking to take advantage of this. We know Lee is incredibly quick, and at this point in the race, he's in a premium position to almost take 2 positions off the back of this fight.
Yeah, I wonder if he's actually going to go for an overtake here. I think he'll be happy to sit behind these 2 guys and wait for a mistake and a potential off track or a murder between these 2 guys. I mean, when they're all somewhat similar paced here, you don't want to end up in a sandwich between 2 fast guys. It's better to sit back, sit in the toe, get some gap in between the guys behind you, and just see if there's a mistake being made. If nothing happens, then you can start attacking.
The thing is, if you're Alistair Hay, in this situation, there's a pretty good chance if you defend, then you're going to lose time. For a fact, if you have to give space for a dive, you're going to lose time, which means that someone like Lee Aberdeen, who's just tucked in behind Lubscher, he's just he is literally in the perfect spot to just pick him off straight away. So for Hay at this point, it's going to be just a case of, getting in the way, really, isn't it? And we know for a fact that Lubscher and Hay are both very sensible drivers, not 2 that we're familiar with seeing involved in too many incidents in the past. Neither is Aberdeen, to be fair. So I think when it does happen, it'll all be neat and tidy, but I have a feeling Alistair Hay will be the one that comes off the worst out of these 3.
Yeah, I think Lubscher's going to go for it here. He looked very, very close in that exit, so it seems like he was trying to set it up here from the slip overtake of the turn 2.
Let's see him down into the Andretti Hairpin now. It's getting really close between these guys. Car number 21 has a little look up the inside. He's tucked it in just over that sausage curb, bumps the wheels. That is very tidy from Lubscher. Gets the move done, and that's going to set him free, but not quite. Hay wants another go back up the inside of turn 3. As they go into 4, Lubscher's had to concede the place, but he's got more pace on the exit here. Let's have a look at this from Lee Aberdeen's view as they have the run up to turn 5. Is anyone going to be brave enough for a dive on the brakes? No, they're not close enough really here. It's a very dangerous place to try that move, and it would compromise the speed into 6. Now, let's see who's the quicker one on the exit of turn 6. I'd say it's Matt Lubscher out of the two of those. He's closed that gap up as they take the run into the Corkscrew. Very delicate point in the race here. Let's see. Up the inside goes Lubscher. He's locked it up and he's just narrowly missed the back of Alistair Hayes' car. And that's allowed Lee Aberdeen to slip through. No contact between our drivers. But wow, that was a moment to behold, wasn't it?
Perfect strategy by Aberdeen. Sit behind, wait for the mistake to come, and it's happened. And now Lubscher's going to have gravelly cold tyres, and he won't be able to push too early now to catch back up to them. He has to let them tyres come back in again.
It was very scrappy into 11 there. Didn't look great at all, did it? So, okay, brilliant. We'll keep an eye on that because Aberdeen's going to be the next one that tries the manoeuvre on Alistair Hay, and I'm sure it will come maybe in a lap's time. But for the moment, we should just have a little look over at James Folkes. So, as we mentioned earlier, up a fair few places is Folkes. 9, I think, at the moment that stands. So, as we go into the Andretti Hairpin, he's very, very close behind the likes of Dare Flock here for the battle for those remaining kind of top 10 places. So Dare Flock, someone who we saw putting in the moves earlier, really brave dive into the Corkscrew. We'll keep an eye on this fight because we know they're going to be punchy as they now go up towards the turn 5, and this here will be the real test because you seem to notice here in turn 6 where the drivers make a bit of time, which guys are going to be braver on the brakes or not on the brakes in some cases if you can get away with just the lift, and that is really one of the turning points here at Laguna Seca is turn 6. So into the Corkscrew, another one that is a real test of the brave. Behind these guys we've also got Mitchell Webb and Scott Tuffy. Scott, who was obviously dropped back from the order a little bit earlier when he had an incident, he's now chasing to try and get himself some points back in that top 10. Now, Tuffy currently running in 10th. He knows he's capable of a lot more, and with over 10 laps left to go, there's still a lot of time to fight back and try and make his way up the order. Where do you think that Scott can make it to with the time that he's got remaining, Josh?
He has got every opportunity, I think, for at least a 7 or 6 finish here. He's very fast at this track. He can be very consistent, and I think there's a few more places for him to gain. We're not even halfway yet, and there's still mistakes to come for other drivers. And I've seen it off screen. I've seen that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, looking at the order a little bit, Jerome Lamy's really pulling out the gap at the front at the minute. And the battle that we've currently got here with Scott Tuffy, we were just commenting on a moment ago. One of the close on the pitch, on the track. It's not football. So we've got a few fights going on at the moment. So Lee Aberdeen's still closing in on Alistair Hay. We've also got Stuart Milne chasing hard behind James Folkes. And then Scott Tuffy and the fight with Mitchell Webber are also watching. Let's go over to Patrick Rowlands because this is looking very tight here. 3/10 in it between Mitchell Webb, Patrick Rowlands and Marcus Hudson as they go through turn 6 and now up the hill into... Are we still with them now? Yes, we're still with Rowlands now. So as we go into the Corkscrew, car number 51, chasing down the hill, the gap not quite close enough for him to make any kind of move there. We've seen a few people get brave there, like Lubscher tried to move into the Corkscrew. Didn't work out for him. I don't think anybody else has quite been ready. Let's go to a quick replay now of Tuffy getting around Webb. So this is just around the inside on turn 11. Looks like Tuffy just got a better... Oh, was that the... Oh, it was the move around the outside. There we go. So he's got it done. Lovely. We just joined it a little bit late there, but car number 91 moving up the order into P9, closer to that predicted spot that you mentioned a minute ago, Josh. Defended very well into the Andretti Hairpin there, just to make it very clear that that position was going to remain as Scott's. So let's go back to Patrick Rowlands, up one place so far in this race, 13th. And we'll try and go to Hay and Aberdeen because this fight is really starting to heat up. They've got much closer. Look how much further back Matt Lubscher has dropped. 2.5 seconds now, so maybe losing that slipstream has not worked out very well for him. Now, Lee Aberdeen going very wide, bit of snap at the back there, chasing hard behind Hay. Hay seems to have been struggling a little bit into turn 11, a bit wide at points, and some of the laps where we've observed him. I think that Lee Aberdeen will absolutely want a piece of this, his chance to get on the podium again. And as they go into turn 2, the Andretti Hairpin there, we can see that Alistair Hayes pushing the limits, really picking up a bit of gravel there. Let's go and have a quick look at what's happened to James Folkes. I think we've lost him in turn 11. Yep, that's very deep there. Easy to do, Josh, or a bit of maybe a rookie error, would you say?
Yeah, I think he's made a slight mistake there. I mean, it's not too hard to make that corner. It's a pretty safe braking point and pretty safe corner to make, unless you're basically just in a mind frame of trying to push too much. And if you had a car behind and pushing him too much, it could have been that you're trying to brake too late and not losing the position, and that could have been what done it.
Absolutely, yeah. I've seen it happen a number of times. We've seen people spin there as well, getting on the throttle too early, so it can go one of two ways. Scott Tuffy now pushing his way up towards P7 by the looks of it. Here's Stuart Milne ahead as they go into the corkscrew. Not going to try anything too dangerous here, just going to tuck in behind and hopefully line up for something into the run down to the Andretti Hairpin, maybe even a turn 11 move. Actually, he's close enough to try a dive if he's got the pace on the exit of this penultimate corner here. Let's see whether Scott's feeling brave enough. No, that gap's probably not quite going to be there, is it? So car number 91 hangs back again on this lap as we see a few of the back markers, I think, starting to possibly prop up. Yeah, there we go. We've got car number 2 there. One of the back markers, Duncan Watts, just letting a couple of the drivers through. Tuffy not able to put the chase on here down into the Andretti Hairpin. And then behind these guys, we've got car number 17 also on the horizon. That's Mitchell Webb, who were passed earlier by Mr. Tuffy. Now, the brilliant thing here about Laguna Seca is it's the kind of track where everyone really gets mixed up together. So once you've had a few offs, once you've had a few people that have struggled, you do start to see a lot of those back markers getting in the mix and almost getting in the way of some of the fights that we're going to start seeing on this incredibly tight circuit. And it's easy for those fights to disrupt things that are going on. Car number 48 of Marcus Hudson here, really under pressure now from Patrick Rowlands behind. That was a bit of gravel being picked up there. Car number 51 right tucked up behind the rear wing here of Marcus Hudson as we go up into turn 5. This fight's been going on for a number of laps now. Look how much later Patrick seemed to be on the brakes there. That seemed to get him a little bit more of that gap closed in. And now on the run up to turn 6, let's see whether he's closer up into the corkscrew. I don't think this is going to be anywhere near the kind of distance that he needs for a move, but it's certainly going to put the pressure on Hudson ahead of him, wide there into the corkscrew, picking up a lot of the inside line there, bit of gravel on the tyres, wide around this one here. And then as we come into the final section, he's absolutely quicker than car number 48 ahead, isn't he, Patrick Rowlands? He really needs to get this done so he can sprint off and see if he can make up another position maybe. Whether or not it's going to be possible for him, I think the gap's going to be about 7 seconds up to James Parfitt.
Yeah, he even though he seemed to be faster, that was absolutely great defending by Marcus into the corkscrew. He just took the inside line and stopped him from getting
And here it is into the Andretti Hairpin. Sorry, Josh, I just got... Oh, but he split it! Too brave on the inside line. That bravery not rewarded with an overtake, but instead with a spin and onto the pit exit he has to go to get back onto the tarmac safely and out the way of any of his competitors. That was just a disaster that we didn't want to happen after seeing that incredibly dedicated fight that we've just seen car number 51 of Patrick Rowlands put up. To see him spin off, that is a real shame.
That's a real shame. He's 6 seconds behind now. I struggle to see if he's going to make it back now to fight for that position. I think Marcus was going to be able to make it to the end there.
I've just noticed that we've actually got Matt Lubscher out now. Dropped down in the order to 16th, but I'm seeing out there on the timing tower. So Matt Lubscher, after a strong early performance, has now dropped out of the race entirely. So let's see what happened. A bit of a bump there on the sausage curb on the inside. That's turn 4. And then as I think we go up to turn 5 here, are we going to see something else from Matt? He seems to get through turn 5 okay. And then I'm guessing that T6 is where the magic happens. Is that a back marker up ahead of him? Oh, that's a back marker. I think somebody's locked up, hit the brakes there into turn 6, and then Lubscher's picked at the back of that car. And unfortunately, that's both their races ended with only 8 laps to go. Real shame there. Not the way that we wanted to see it end for Matt. We've also got Alex Hopkins getting past Graham Nichols. So here we go, car number 82 into the corkscrew. Fantastic around the outside there. And that's brilliant stuff from Alex Hopkins. Really clean maneuver. As a bit of front wing debris there on my screen. Let's have a look over at Stuart Milne and Scott Tuffy. Now, Stuart Milne been under pressure for a little while. Scott Tuffy not been able to find a way through. I'm sure with the remaining few laps ticking away, Scott's going to really want it here, isn't he? I mean, as they run down to Andretti Hairpin, surely the slipstream here is enough for Scott to think that maybe he can dive inside or out for a little move, Scott. Josh.
Yeah, the only problem is that Stuart knows about it here, so he's going to put his car on the inside there and block as they go around there, and he's just got the better track position here, and he can just defend.
Scott's looking at the inside of 3 though. This is going to be tight here. Oh,
that's
very
brave, Scott.
close.
He's got the inside though for the next corner, so he's now got the track position for that and can get past him. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and I don't think Milne's got the straight line speed on the exit there to put up a challenge, or has he? Side by side, they're going to turn 5, but no, about a car length maybe, or half car length to Scott Tuffy there, and makes it happen and stick on the exit of 5. Car number 91 ahead, and that's going to allow him to now make his charge further up the field with the remaining 7 laps that he has here. So Deflock's 5 seconds up the road. If he can really put on the pace, that's going to have to be over a second a lap pretty much, I think, to catch up with him. But really throwing it into the corkscrew there, almost sideways, I think, on the exit. Graham Nicol, who you've now got on your screens here, car number 62, is 162 there. Yeah, up 9 places. This is going to be Graham's best finish if he can maintain this 13th position. So great stuff so far from Graham. Roxy Gibson behind, who is looking relatively quick, actually. Roxy, let's have a little look at the lap time. So the last lap time out, Graham Nicol actually did a 1:26 and Roxy on a 1:17 on the last lap. So maybe an error from Graham Nicol, but that's a fantastic time from Roxy, I think. So if we can see a few more of those, every chance that Roxy could actually catch up to Graham. We'll have to keep an eye on it, but it could be that it could just be that maybe we've seen a very minor error from Graham. Now Marcus Hudson up 11 places in 10th at the moment, so made his way into the top 10 point scoring positions. Now currently behind James Folkes. Got a car there on the exit of the pit lane. Can be a little bit distracting, can't it? So when you've got a car on the exit, normally they're not too far, not normally too in your way as you come around the exit of turn 2, sorry. But there can be a little bit of a distraction just in your periphery vision. Knowing that they're there can easily put people off. Now, we have to go back and have a little look at Stuart Milne and Scott Tuffy, because Stuart's actually managed to hang on to the back of Scott. Now, throughout this, we had seen Scott looking like the stronger driver, but Stuart may be ready to mount another kind of overtake, revenge maneuver here if Scott gets stuck behind some back markers, which it looks like could just be happening there. That's Colin Nicol ahead, isn't it?
What's he doing? Why is
he really in the way?
Oh, come on, Scott. Scott's lucky to get past them there without an incident. I mean, they were on the straight there. He could have just lifted on the gas there and let those guys by.
I think we've just I thought I just had an incident there. That was just a bit of a swerve there from Stuart Milne, but it looks like Scott Tuffy's now been able to charge up the road. No more dramas, got around the back markers. That was a little bit obscure there on turn 2, the Andretti Hairpin. We don't really want to see that kind of thing when we've got battles going on up the field. Now, as we look forward in the field a little bit, Sam Hermer is 2.8 seconds off of Jerome Lamy. If you remember, that gap was probably more like 3 or 4 seconds earlier on in the race. So he is gaining on Jerome Lamy. The lap times between the two of them very similar, 1:14.3 and a 1:14.4 on the last laps for Jerome and Sam respectively. So I think at the moment Jerome, who is currently on your screen, is going to be the quicker. Let's just have a look here. So Hermer was so the gap was, there was a considerable gain there from 14 to 15, Josh.
Yeah, it looks like Lamy's had a couple of slower laps. They seem to be a bit inconsistent there, so I wonder if there's been a few mistakes or maybe even back markers slowing him up. But yeah, Hermer's a lot closer now, but 3 seconds to go with only a few more laps left. Unless Lamy makes a big mistake, we should stay the way it is.
There's a little bit of an off track there for Deflock up the hill on the way up to the Corkscrew, isn't it? That's car number 6. So that's going to mean that Scott Tuffy's gap has decreased a little bit more. I think probably only 1.5 seconds now from Scott Tuffy back up to Deflock. So expect to possibly see that happen towards the end of the race. We've got 4 laps to go here, and here's Dare now coming up to the back of, I believe that is Roxy Gibson. Really awkward place to catch another car there, the Corkscrew. A bit of a front wheel lockup, but goes round the outside here and then lines up the inside for a very well managed move by Deflock. But that does mean that Scott Tuffy now only 7/10 away, and that move is looking even more likely. We really need Roxy to make sure that they're out of the way here on the entry into 11, and Scott's not been able to get around cleanly, but now Roxy moves over to the left, allowing that charge from Scott to continue up to the back of Dare. This could be the kind of last lap or last couple of lap battle that we've been looking for here at Laguna. 4 laps to go, but I think this is going to be done a lot sooner, don't you, Josh?
Yeah, Flock going off there in the gravel is not going to help his lap times. It's going to compromise his tyres for a short while, allowing Tuffy to put the pressure on there. The back marker certainly doesn't help, but Roxy Gibson did a great job of moving over and letting the guys through, so good job to her. But yeah, I expect Tuffy to come here. It's 3 laps left. He'll want this position, and I think he'll be pushing and pushing here to try and get it done by the end.
Brilliant stuff so far this evening. So Jerome maintaining that lead at the minute, 1.6 seconds. It's dropping away a bit more. Sam Hermer starting to really claw that time away. So 5/10 on the last lap. Look at that, a 1:13.9 there just for Sam Hermer. So I'm going purple. That's going to be brilliant. Here's the lap time. 6/10 and 5/10 in the last lap before that, 19. So this is really going to heat up again. Another potential last lap battle coming here. I wonder if the tyres are just starting to get away from Jerome and he's starting to struggle as the car lightens up a little bit in the later portions of this race. I think we've got a little move going on there in the background, possibly. Who was that? Was that another back marker? That oh yeah, the car number 12 there. So let's continue on with Jerome Lamy for a minute. While we're just continuing to watch Jerome through the final few laps, it is just worth reminding you all that if you want to keep up to date with all the news around the iRacing UK leagues, the iRacing UK podcast is the only place for you to go for all your iRacing news. Tune in to listen to Team Fordzilla's Jack Ashton talk to Mark Jennings and Calvin Dent as we enter the 3rd episode of the podcast. It's available now over on Spotify, and you can find the link down below in the video description. We're going to go back over now to Scott Tuffy, though, because Scott is getting really close now up behind Dare Flock, less than 4/10 in it as they go into the corkscrew. Really throwing it side to side there is Scott. As we go into the final couple of laps, there's absolutely a move here to be had, but Dare Flock, who I'm sure this could possibly be Dare's highest position finish in the league so far. He's had some very good ones, but 5th could really be the top spot for Dare, and it's worth fighting tooth and nail for. But look at Scott Tuffy really pushing it now as we go into the straight on the run down to the Andretti Hairpin. This is going to be fantastic stuff. I don't think he's going to be quite brave enough for a move on this lap. No, he's not. He's going to tuck it in behind, nice and close behind car number 6. Keep an eye on that rear wing for the moment. I'm sure there's going to be another opportunity. Lee Aberdeen and Hay are also still fighting away. So Scott Tuffy 2/10 off the back of his competitor here, Dare Flock, and then Graham Nicol ahead is going to be a lapped car. So let's see if he's going to make it out of the way of these two. I don't think he is as they go into turn 5. That's really going to compromise Dare Flock, but he's made it out of the way here on the exit of turn 5 as they have the run up to turn 6. This is a real moment here. Scott Tuffy very close behind, maintains that gap as they go up the run into the corkscrew. This is going to be critical because Scott is so quick through the corkscrew. He really likes to throw it in here, having to brake very sensibly. A big lock up there from Dare Flock ahead. We're on the white flag lap now as we run into the final sector. This is going to be a whole nother lap of action. Will Scott be brave enough to try and send it into turn 11, see if he can get the move done, or will he just try and... Oh, he's gone so wide there onto the gravel. That's not going to help his efforts here on the warpath, chasing for that 5th position. He stayed in very close behind Dare Flock, though. It hasn't seemed to compromise him, that gap. Now the run up to Andretti Hairpin, his last chance to get a dive in here on turn 2. Can Dare defend from this? It's very, very deep on the brakes. He puts his nose in, but Dare not really going to be scared by that one, and Scott has to just sit back and keep and still looking at the back of Dare Flock's rear wing here. The exit of turn 3, though, it looks like Dare's very compromised there compared to Scott. He's pushing so hard here to try and keep that gap nice and close. He has every opportunity here to try a dive at a later part of the circuit. Maybe the corkscrew is the next opportunity for Scott Tuffy on the run up to turn 6 now. Let's see if that gap shrinks anymore. This is really going to be quite interesting, because if these guys come together, then it means Stuart Milne can just glide through into 4th or 5th possibly, and Jerome Lamy goes in for another win. That's his second win here in the iRacing UK Formula 3 League. Scott Tuffy still behind at the Corkscrew. Oh, and he's lost it. He's spun it. Stuart Milne's going to be able to come through here. Stuart Milne reclaims the position for 6th. Scott Tuffy has to be licking his wounds here as he goes into the final sector of this final lap here at Laguna Seca. And oh my word, what a climactic exit. And here's Marcus Hudson now being chased by Alex Hopkins, the next closest fight that we've got on the track. We're in turn 5 here. A lot of drivers now starting to complete their final lap, but we're still here at turn 6. Car number 82 having a little look at the inside, not close enough. I think he might have picked up a bit of the sausage curb there, and he has. Too brave into the gravel. Another one that's going to be licking their wounds at the end of this race here. Car number 82 so keen to close that gap up and try and make a position, but unfortunately for Alex, no top 10 for you on this occasion. There's Jerome Lamy with a smoky engine there in the final parade lap here. A little bit of a display for anybody that is watching out there. Car number 16, well done Jerome, great performance. And there's Lee Aberdeen, who came in 4th position as well. So great stuff from all of our drivers. That's been a really fantastic race here at Laguna Seca. Very much enjoyed a hell of a charge there from Sam Hermer at the end to try and make his way up to P1. That gap was really dropping off, Josh.
He was setting some absolute stormers of some laps there towards the end. You know, could be. I know Sam likes making his own setup, so he could have a setup this week, which really keeps getting better and better and faster, even towards the end of the race. And the tires seem to be okay. A couple of more laps, and I think we could have a fight in our hands.
Absolutely could have. Yeah, that was brilliant stuff. Really very much enjoyed throughout the entire race. So here is your race result this evening. So Jerome Lamy comes in 1st position. Fantastic result for Jerome. Then followed closely by Sam Hermer and Alistair Hay. Lee Aberdeen comes in 4th position after he took advantage of the fighting that was going on ahead between Alistair Hay and Matt Lubscher. He made up that position after Lubscher had an incident and dropped back in the order. Derflock comes in 5th. A start defense from Derflock. Brilliant stuff from him as he did battle with Scott Tuffy, and Stuart Milne just nicking that 6th place from Scott in the last lap. Scott's in 7th, followed by Mitchell Webb. James Folks, a real great performance from James here, I believe, gained I think 8 positions in the end in that race. And then Marcus Hudson rounds out the top 10. Alex Hopkins behind them, followed by James Parfitt, Graham Nicol, Roxy Gibson, Colin Nicol, Duncan Watts, David Hatton. And then we've got Patrick Rowlands, followed by Matt Lubscher, Martin Devine, Ryan Annals, Chris Robinson, Nathan Willoughby, Patrick Bennett, Paul Busby, and Mark Murphy in 26. Obviously, a few of the drivers there that didn't finish due to incidents earlier in the race. A real shame to see a few off tracks, but nonetheless, a thrilling race here at Laguna Seca this evening. Here are the championship standings for you. That puts Lee Aberdeen at the top of the table now with 449 points, very closely followed by Scott Tuffy, Sam Hermer, Alistair Hay, and Jerome Lamy. Not a lot in it at the top end, at the sharp end. Gavin Petty and Mitchell Webb, Stuart Milne, Rhys Saunders, and James Cockram are the other half of the top 10. Obviously, some of these drivers we haven't seen this evening, so they have dropped back a little bit, but be sure to tune in with us next week when we'll see a lot of these guys doing battle once again and trying to fight for those points to get themselves back into the top spot. Now, as we said earlier, all of your news that you need relating to iRacing UK can be found over on the iRacing UK podcast. That's inside iRacing. There's a link in the video description down below, and by clicking on that, you'll go through to listen to episode 3, where you'll hear from Team Fordzilla's Jack Ashton, who's also a Driver 61 coach, but competing in that UK Hot Hatch Championship. The other thing to just bear in mind is if you've enjoyed this broadcast and you want to get involved in one of these leagues, the GT3 Season 5 League will be opening registration already, and you can head over to www.totalsimsport.tv/GT3 for your chance to get involved in some of that action. If you're already a member of the Discord, go over to the iRacing UK Discord and go for the GT3 Season 5 channel to register your interest. Now, upcoming rounds that we've got ahead of us, we're going to have the Donington race coming up next, Josh. That's going to be a real favourite. I don't think we've been there since maybe Season 1 possibly of the league. And then we've also got Spa and Zandvoort coming up as well. So a real hot roster of stuff. Are you going to be racing Donington?
I'll be racing in Donington. It's too much of a fun flowing track, so I'll definitely be racing that one.
Well, we'll be keeping an eye out for you on the circuit. Don't forget, if you want to get involved, head over to iRacing UK. You can get them on facebook.com/iRacing UK. And there's also IRUK_team. Thank you very much to all our drivers this evening for putting on such a great show and some great sportsmanship on our screens. Thank you to the viewers that have tuned in. And if you've hit that subscribe button, especially thank you for giving us a click there. If you haven't already, why not? Cost no time at all on YouTube. Just give us a cheeky click on the subscribe button. We'll appreciate that little follow on Twitter or on Twitch as well. And Chris, thank you very much to you behind the scenes for bringing us all the angles this evening. That's been really great to see. We've had some absolutely fantastic racing here at Laguna, but from me and Josh, it's finally time to sign off and say good night.